Hello all, in this module we are going to discuss about job design. So there are about two modules I am going to discuss with respect to explaining job design concept. So in the first module we'll discuss about what is job design and then different approaches used in job design. In the second module we'll have a discussion about explaining what is work study, method study and then work measurement. So now try to understand what is job design. So an outgrowth of job analysis that improves jobs through technological and human considerations in order to enhance organization efficiency and employee job satisfaction is referred as job design. Job design involves specifying the content and the methods of job. So here we try to understand what will be done, who will do the job, how the job will be done, where the job will be done. And then there are some of the other psychological factors and the ergonomics factors. Even those things need to be considered whenever we are performing job design process. So with respect to ergonomics factors, so there is nothing but incorporation of human factors in the design of the workplace. So there are different components involved in designing the job. So one of the major component is, or one of the major approaches, work specialization, or sometimes it is also referred as job specialization. And then there are certain behavioral approaches are available in terms of designing the job. And then methods analysis, motions study, working conditions and so on. So these are the different components involved in designing the job. So basis for job design. So some of the basis for job design are, we need to understand something about the organizational objectives for the job, including tasks, duties and responsibilities to be performed by the organizational members. And then ergonomic considerations involving human capabilities and limitations. Even we need to take into account this particular factor whenever we are trying to do the job design. And then some of the behavioral concerns reflected in the different talents, abilities and the skills of employees. And then industrial engineering concerns centering on efficient production processes and work method improvements and so on. So these are the four major components or bases or factors which we need to consider whenever we are going to do the job design. Now try to understand some of the characteristics of people and the job. So the reason why we are trying to understand some of the characteristics of job and people is, there are certain characteristics which can be controlled by the organizational top level executives. There are certain characteristics which may not be controlled by the organizational members. So to get this knowledge, we are trying to understand the different characteristics of the job as well as people. So with respect to job characteristics, we have task, authority and responsibility, policies and procedures, tools, task variety, time requirements, social opportunities, working conditions, stress and so on. Sometimes these job characteristics can be controlled by the top level executives. Whereas in the other hand, we have some of the people characteristics which may not be controlled by the organizational members. One is motivation, employee interest, their energy level, personality variables, satisfaction predisposition, physical characteristics of the people, and then honesty, and then intelligence level, IQ level and so on. So these are the other characteristics which we may not be able to control properly from the top level perspective. There are certain scientific management theories also involved in terms of designing the job. So one of the evolution given by Frederick W. Taylor, Frederick Winslow Taylor. So he is also known as father of scientific management. So he has made a lot of contribution to the management in terms of scientifically studying the jobs. So the major theory which was given by Frederick W. Taylor is, that is Frederick Winslow Taylor, is scientific management theory. Scientific management is defined as the use of the scientific method to define the one best way for a job to be done. So finding that one best way is really difficult. but that is a major contribution of Frederick Winslow Taylor. The scientific management theory developed due to the need to increase productivity and efficiency. The overall outcome of the scientific management principle or scientific management theory is ensuring proper productivity and efficiency in their organizational processes. Then the second major contribution is given by Frank Gilbert and Lillian Gilbert during the period 1968 to 1924 with respect to Frank Gilbert contribution, and then Lillian Gilbert contribution is between 1878 to 1972. So according to Frederick Winslow Taylor, that is father of scientific management, he has given 4 basic principles to the organization in terms of locating the one best possible way to do the job. So the first basic principle is study each part of the task scientifically and develop the best method to perform it. Second principle, carefully select workers and train them to perform a task using the scientifically developed method. Third principle is cooperate fully with workers to ensure they use the proper method. And then fourth point is divide work and responsibility. So this division of labor concept is again came from Adam Smith. So one of the major contribution of Adam Smith is division of labor. So he also incorporated division of labor principle in his 4 basic principles of scientific management. So these are the 4 basic principles one should understand whenever they are going to design the job. And then with respect to Frank Gilbert's and Lillian Gilbert's, a husband and wife team studied job motions. They did the motion study. They refined Taylor's analysis of work movements and made many contributions to time and motion study. So one of the major contribution given by Frank and Lillian Gilbert is conducting the time study or motion study. And then the next behavioral approach is job characteristics model. So this model is given by Hackman and Wortham in the year of 1975 by publishing a paper in Journal of Applied Psychology. So this job characteristics theory is a theory of work design. Sometimes this theory is also useful in terms of redesigning the job. It provides a set of implementing principles for enriching jobs in organizational settings. The original version of job characteristics theory proposed a model of 5 core job characteristics, that is skill variety, task identity, task significance, autonomy and feedback, that affect 5 work-related outcomes such as motivation, satisfaction, performance, absenteeism and turnover through 3 psychological states. This is nothing but mediators: experienced meaningfulness, experienced responsibility and knowledge of results. So this is the model of job characteristics model. Even the core job characteristics are affecting outcomes through critical psychological states. Also, these relationships were moderated by growth, need, strength, context, satisfaction and then knowledge and skills in both the paths. So in the first stage also, these 3 moderators are moderating the relationship. In the second path also, these 3 moderators are moderating the relationship. So basically, skill variety, task identity and task significance are related to experienced meaningfulness of the work, which in turn affecting some of the outcomes. As I mentioned, high internal work motivation, high growth satisfaction, high general job satisfaction, high work effectiveness. These are some of the outcomes of job characteristics model. So we are trying to understand how some of the core job characteristics such as skill variety, task identity, task significance, autonomy and feedback from job, all those characteristics are affecting job outcomes through the critical psychological states such as experienced meaningfulness of the work, experienced responsibility for outcome of the work, knowledge of the actual results of the work activities and so on. So this is a major contribution of job characteristics model. So now we'll discuss about what is skill variety and then other dimensions of job characteristics model. So skill variety is nothing but the degree to which a job requires various activities requiring the worker to develop a variety of skills and talents. Job holders can experience more meaningfulness in jobs that require several different skills and abilities than when the jobs are elementary and routine. Task identity is nothing but the degree to which the job requires the job holders to identify and complete a work piece with a visible outcome or tangible outcome. Workers experience more meaningfulness in a job when they are involved in the entire process rather than just being responsible for a part of the work. Next one is task significance. So task significance is nothing but the degree to which the job affects other people's lives. The influence can be either in the immediate organization or in the external environment. Employees feel more meaningfulness in a job that substantially improves either psychological or physical well-being of others than a job that has limited effect on anyone else. Autonomy, sometimes it is also referred as job autonomy. So job autonomy is the degree to which the job provides the employee with significant freedom, independence and discretion to plan out the work and determine the procedures in the job. For jobs with a high level of autonomy, the outcomes of the work depend on the workers' own efforts, initiatives and decisions rather than on the instructions from a manager or a manual of job procedures. In such cases, the job holders experience greater personal responsibility for their own successes and failures at work. Feedback. This dimension is referred as the degree to which the worker has knowledge of results. This is clear, specific, detailed, actionable information about the effectiveness of his or her job performance. When workers receive clear, actionable information about their work performance, they have better overall knowledge of the effect of their work activities and what specific they need to take to improve their productivity. Critical psychological states. These critical psychological states are nothing but mediators between core job characteristics, dimensions and outcomes. So in simple sense, mediator is nothing but the job characteristics, the core job dimensions are affecting outcome through these mediators. So basically, core dimensions are first influencing critical psychological states of the employees, which in turn that is producing outcomes. So this is one of the way how you can understand what is mediator or mediation. So experience the meaningfulness of the work. So the degree to which the job holder experiences the work as intrinsically meaningful and can present his or her value to other people under the external environment. So this is nothing but experience the meaningfulness of the work. And then experience the responsibility for outcome of the work. So this is nothing but the degree to which the worker feels he or she is accountable and responsible for the results of the work. The last one is knowledge of results of the work activities. So the degree to which the job holder knows how well he or she is performing the job. So these are the three psychological states which is transmitting the effect from core job dimensions to job outcomes. So some of the moderators which is enhancing the relationship between core dimensions with the psychological states as well as psychological states to job outcomes are growth, need, strength, knowledge and skills, and then context satisfaction. So growth, need, strength is nothing but strength of a person's need for personal accomplishment, learning and development. So the theory also posits that growth, need, strength moderates both the relationship of core job characteristics and psychological states and the relationship between psychological states and outcomes. Next moderator is knowledge and skill. So in simple sense, the role of moderator is moderator may affect the strength of the relationship between your independent variable and dependent variable. As far as this job characteristics model is concerned, so you have core dimensions on the left hand side, that is independent variable, that is in turn affecting outcomes through psychological states. So in both the sides or in both the parts, these moderators are strengthening the relationship. The second moderator is knowledge and skill. The level of knowledge and skill the worker possesses can moderate the relationship between the mediators and the job characteristics and outcomes. For motivating jobs, adequate knowledge and skill lead to experiencing the critical psychological states and better outcomes, while insufficient knowledge and skills discourage the psychological states and result in more negative outcomes. Unmotivating jobs don't allow the workers to experience the psychological states at all. Thus, knowledge and skills have no effect. Next one is context satisfaction. So the context satisfaction is referred as the context of the job also affects employee experience. So depending upon the job context, there could be a fluctuation in terms of their perception about psychological states as well as job outcomes. So the authors suggest that when workers are satisfied with things like their managers, pay, co-worker and job security, they respond and more positively to highly motivating jobs and less positively when they are not satisfied. The reason being that they must use attentional resources to handle the undesirable work context, which distracts from the richness otherwise inherent in the job. So context satisfaction is also playing a major role in terms of strengthening this relationship. Some of the outcomes of job characteristics model are internal work motivation, job satisfaction, absenteeism and turnover and performance quality. However, the 1980 revisions to the original model included removing absenteeism and turnover and breaking performance into quality of work and the quantity of work. So these are the major outcomes of job characteristics model. So in job characteristics model, they are also talking about something called motivating potential score. So sometimes this is also referred as MPS score. So higher the MPS score, which means that the people are having more motivation towards their work, or they have really strong enough motivation to perform their task. When a job has a high score on the 5 core characteristics, it is likely to generate 3 psychological states which can lead to positive work outcomes such as high internal work motivation, high satisfaction with the work, high quality work performance and low absenteeism and turnover. This tendency for high levels of job characteristics to lead to positive outcomes can be formulated by the motivating potential score. So Hackman and Northam explained that the MPS is an index of degree to which a job has an overall high standing on the person's degree of motivation and therefore is likely to prompt favorable personal and work outcomes. So the MPS score can be computed using this formula. So skill variety plus task identity plus task significance divided it by 3 and then you multiply this score with autonomy and feedback. So the final outcome which you are going to get is nothing but motivating potential score. Some examples of high and low job characteristics. For example, in terms of task variety, from the perspective of skill variety, so the owner operator of a garage who does electrical repair, rebuilds engines, does body work and interacts with customers, so he or she is having high variety of skills. So low variety of skill set, a body shop worker who sprays paint 8 hours a day. So here the job is crystal clear and the routine job is spraying the paint. And then in terms of task identity, high identity means a cabinet maker who designs a piece of furniture, selects the wood, builds the object and finishes into perfection. So highly, they need to have a really tangible outcome. So here the task identity is very high. In terms of low identity, for example, a worker in a furniture factory who operates a lathe to make table legs. So here only he or she is trying to make the table legs. So here the task identity is very low. In terms of task significance, for example, high significance works are nursing care, the the patient care services provided by the nursing unit or maybe IC unit, intensive care unit. In terms of low significance, sweeping the hospital floors. So sweepers used to clean the hospital floors, so their task significance is very low. In terms of autonomy, high autonomy. For example, a telephone installer who schedules his or her own work for the day and decides on the best techniques for a particular installation. Low autonomy, a telephone operator who must handle calls as they come according to a routine, highly specified procedures. For example, in call centers, how they operate. feedback. In terms of high feedback, for example, an electronics factory worker who assembles a radio and then tests it to determine whether it operates properly or not. In terms of low feedback, in the same electronic factory context, who assembles the radio and then routes it to a quality control inspector who tests and adjusts it. So here the job is only testing and quality verification. So these are some of the examples to understand high and low level of job characteristics in terms of these 5 core job dimensions. Now, job redesigning can be done with the help of job rotation, job enlargement, and then job enrichment. So job rotation is referred as the periodic shifting of a worker from one task to another. For example, in banking context, a clerk may be posted in a teller in a cash counter, or a clerk may be posted in some other section or loan section. So every 6 months they used to rotate their job in terms of avoiding the monotonous in their task performed in the organization. Job enlargement is nothing but the horizontal expansion of jobs. So increasing the quantity of the workload to the employee, that is nothing but job enlargement. Job enrichment is nothing but increasing the vertical elements of the job or vertical expansion of the job. In terms of planning, in terms of decision making, we are trying to increase the responsibility of the person or increasing the responsibility of the job. So that is nothing but job enrichment. So some of the guidelines for enriching a job, for example, some of the suggested actions in terms of core job dimensions are: when you combine tasks that may lead to skill variety and task identity, when you create natural work units that may lead to task identity and task significance, when you establish client relationships that may lead to skill variety, autonomy and feedback, when you expand job vertically that may lead to autonomy, when you open feedback channels that may lead to feedback. So these are the suggested actions in terms of improving the core job dimensions of the employees. So there are certain alternative work arrangements can be done in terms of designing the job or redesigning the job. You can also give flexible work timings. For example, employees work during a common core time period each day but have discretion in forming their total work day from a flexible set of hours outside the core. Suppose if the core work time is morning 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock means an employee can choose or an employee can decide about their entire work duration or work schedule. He or she can reach the office by 9 o'clock and leave the office by 5 o'clock. In another instant, he or she can reach the office by 2 o'clock in the afternoon and then she can leave late evening. So this is nothing but flexible time. And then job sharing, even this is also another wonderful practice in terms of doing the job redesigning. So the practice of having 2 or more people split a 40-hour-a-week job. So that can be done. And then telecommuting is also another alternative work arrangement. So employees do their work at home on a computer that is linked to their job. So wherever the work is wherever the work is highly psychological in nature, and it can be done in remote places also, there you can practice this telecommuting. So there are different categories of telecommuting jobs are available: routine information handling tasks, mobile activities, professional and other knowledge related tasks, and so on. So in telecommuting, employees do their work at home on a computer that is linked to their job or office. Some of the advantages of using telecommuting method is larger labor pool and then higher productivity, less turnover, improved morale, reduced office space cost. So these are some of the advantages of performing telecommuting. And then some of the disadvantages are less direct supervision of employees, difficult to coordinate teamwork, difficult to evaluate non-quantitative performance, and so on. So these are some of the disadvantages of telecommuting. And then performance. So performance is a function of understanding, ability and opportunity and motivation. So the performance level of the employees can be determined in terms of the three elements or major elements. One is their ability, and then their motivation, and then the given opportunity. So when you multiply their ability with the motivation and opportunity, the total score which you are going to get is nothing but the performance. So you can also create some of the employee involvement programs in terms of increasing their motivation level as well as in terms of improving their employee outcomes. So employee involvement programs are nothing but a participative processes that uses the entire capacity of employees and is designed to encourage increased commitment to the organization's success. Even one can also think about doing participative management practices. In most of the organizations, this practice is widely practiced. In this case, a processes in which subordinates share a significant degree of decision-making power with their immediate superiors or supervisors. So we are taking into account subordinates' opinions or feelings or their decisions in terms of making any larger decision which may be implemented in organization wide. And there are different employee involvement programs can be scheduled in your organization, that is representative participation, work council, and then board representativeness and so on. Even one can also think about creating a quality circle. So quality circle is nothing but a work group of employees who meet regularly to discuss their quality problems, investigate causes, recommended solutions, and take corrective actions. So these quality circles are formulated by the organizational members on voluntary basis. So without any force, employees, they themselves create quality circles in their department level or maybe organization level, and then they are trying to solve their routine problems. Problems may be related to manufacturing of a product or testing the quality of the outputs. It can be anything. And then rewarding employees. 4 aspects of employee rewards are what to pay, internal versus external equity, and then how to pay, example piece rate, merit based bonuses, profit sharing, gain sharing, and then employee stock options, skill based pay. These are all the things which can come under how to pay option. And then what benefits to offer, example flexible work schedule benefits, and then how to recognize employees, some kind of awards and rewards they may be expecting. So these are the 4 aspects of thinking about rewarding the employees. So there are certain variable pay programs can be offered to the employees in terms of motivating them. So a proportion of an employee's pay is based on some individual under organizational measure of performance, that is piece rate, pay plans, profit sharing plans, gain sharing plans, and so on. So in the compensation module, you will be able to understand more about this variable pay programs. So employee stock options is nothing but company established benefit plans in which employees acquire stock as part of their benefits. And then skill based pay plans can be implemented. So skill based pay plans are nothing but pay levels are based on how many skills employees have or how many jobs they can do. Some of the benefits of skill based pay plans are: it provides staffing flexibility, it facilitates communication across the organization, it lessens protection of territory behaviors, and it also meets the need of employees for advancement without promotion, and it leads to performance improvements. Some of the drawbacks of skill based pay plans are lack of additional learning opportunities that will increase employee pay, and continuing to pay employees for skills that have become obsolete sometime, paying for skills that are of no immediate use to the organization, and paying for a skill not for the level of employee performance for the particular skills. These are some of the drawbacks of skill based pay plans. So in this module, we have discussed about what is job design and then some of the behavioral approaches to performing the job redesigning process using job characteristics module, and then we also discussed about how to motivate the employees using some of the options like variable pay system and then flexible working condition and so on. So in the next module, we'll have a discussion about conducting work study, method study, and then work measurement. Thank you.